Bernard, in trying to evaluate the relationship between science and religion, many of my science friends, scientist friends who are religious in some sense of the word, seek to harmonize them. And I always feel that the way that occurs is by watering down either one side or the other, or generally both. Am I wrong?
Well, the question is, can they be harmonized? I mean, obviously the traditional view which people sometimes have is that science and religion are fundamentally opposed. And of course, historically, there have been tensions between science and religion, we know that. But I think it's not true to say that the progress of science necessarily means that religion is being deposed, because the religion is talking about those aspects of experience, spiritual aspects of experience, if you like, which are something which have to be addressed. And you've got to distinguish between issues of does God exist and issues of whether one has what might be called spiritual experiences. And my own view is that if you do have a final paradigm, it may not only accommodate mind, but in some sense it should accommodate what might be called spirituality as well.
Is spirituality then a subset of mind? I know your belief is you have the physical world and you have some big M mind, ill-defined, but something independent of the current laws of physics. So if you have spirituality, is that a subset of mind, or is that some other new category?
Well, I see there as being a sort of a spectrum which goes from the material, if you like, to mental to spiritual. Because all
is that a continuum?
Well, I would say it's a continuum in the sense, I mean, we talked a bit about psychic phenomena, for example, and I would say psychic phenomena, the experience of ESP or clairvoyance, I would say that there's a whole range of phenomena which go from ordinary perceptual experiences like dreams and memories to psychic experiences, even to spiritual or mystical experiences. And my own view is that I actually like to take all of these things seriously. I like to take any experience as something, part of something which one wants to ultimately explain. Now, this is a difficult position because most physicists are finding it hard enough to accommodate mental phenomena. If you start talking about spiritual phenomena, of course, it's even more unpalatable.
How are you differentiating between mental and spiritual?
Well, the word mental is a very broad.
Sure.
I was actually more distinguishing between, if you like, I normally distinguish between normal, paranormal, and spiritual, because mental is the general term which accommodates everything.
So then distinguish between the paranormal and the spiritual.
Well, I mean, a paranormal would be an experience, for example, in which I don't hate the word paranormal, because, but nevertheless, that's the term people use.
Or psi phenomena.
Or I prefer the word psi. For example, if I can share an experience with somebody, if I can know what's in their mind, that I would describe as psychic or paranormal, because it's not described in the normal way. But a mystical experience goes beyond that. That might be something where you experience some form of altered state of consciousness where you feel one with the universe, or you have a near-death experience. I mean, there's a whole range of these phenomena. I mean, there's a whole range of psychic phenomena, a whole range of these spiritual phenomena.
Yeah, of course, there are ways physically that people explain that through neurophysiological activities in the temporal lobe, and
just as one could explain that, a reductionist would claim that all mental experience could be explained in terms of neurons, and they would say, of course, the same about all these alleged psychic or alleged spiritual experiences. But that's just saying that all of these experiences are derivative and subjective and don't actually have any reality. So what I'm really suggesting is that all experience, in some sense, has a level of reality, even though it goes way beyond the physical. And so in this sort of approach, I'm saying that you can have a unified model which is going to actually accommodate all three of these, normal, psychic, and spiritual. And that's, in that sense, I would claim there isn't any conflict between science and religion. I mean, the word religion is a very vague term, but I'm talking about really the experiences associated with the material world and the experiences associated, if you like, with some spiritual world. But I have to say that this, again, going into the domain of the spiritual is even more provocative to most physicists than going into the domain of the mental. I mean, consciousness is a bit of a taboo word. It's now becoming a bit more respectable. Spiritual is an even more taboo word. But nevertheless, I'm just laying my cards on the table and saying that because I am interested in the spiritual. Now, the whole issue of whether God exists, I don't like to get into that, because I don't see this as a question of whether or not God exists. I'm talking about the nature of religious experience. People, there's no doubt, millions of people have religious experiences, and some people have mystical experiences. And the question is that a phenomena? Is it just an illusion generated by the brain, or does this phenomena have some intrinsic reality? And of course, I may be wrong. Most of my friends would think I am, but I personally think that even these spiritual experiences they are basically giving a glimpse to some higher form of reality.